Hello, guys. So today we are going to be ranking the transfer window of the traditional top six clubs in England. So when I say traditional top six club, we're talking about Arsenal, Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Chelsea. So let's get into it. We are going to be ranking them from the worst to the best. At number six, we have Manchester United. Manchester United finished 15th last season, and they needed to be aggressive in this summer's transfer window. They started aggressively. They brought in Konya, they brought in Mbuemo, they brought in Benjamin Sesko. They also brought in a goalkeeper, Senny Lemens, who I think is going to replace Onana. And they were about to bring in Baleba, and something just happened, and they couldn't. I don't know, maybe they couldn't stack up the money, or Brighton said they were not selling. But I expected them to be more aggressive and just go and get that deal done because that was what they needed. So now they've left themselves short. Now they don't have a midfielder. They don't have good enough players in defense, which they needed to improve on. And now they haven't. And I don't see them finishing in the top six. I see them finishing in the top eight. And I don't think they've done enough in the transfer window to get above the likes of Newcastle, Tottenham, Chelsea. So, in my opinion, it's a 5/10 window for Manchester United. And yeah, that's why I put them at number six. At number five, we have Tottenham. Tottenham, in my opinion, for a team that wants to finish sixth or fifth, they did well. They did, I think they did enough. They brought in players like Xavi Simon, Kudus to bolster their attack after they lost Son and Madison. They also brought in Joao Palinia to make their midfield stronger and difficult to break down because of the kind of manager Thomas Frank is and how he sets up. He sets his team up to be compact. So he knew the right kind of players he wanted to bring in. So he brought Joao Palinia in. In defense, they brought in Danso Kota Takai to bolster their defense. On deadline day, they brought in Randall Kolomwani, which was icing on the cake for me. It was a good signing to come in. So, in my opinion, they've had like a 6/10 window. That's what I'll rate it. And it is in number five for me. At number four, I have Manchester City. Manchester City lost a lot of players, right? They lost KDB, they lost Gondoan, they lost Kylie Walker, they lost Akanji, they lost Jack Grealish, and they also lost their goalkeeper, Ederson. They needed to bring in bodies, they needed to bring in players. It was good for them to send those players out because some of them were already old, they were already done at that level. But players like Akanji, Living, and Grealish, it's a bit surprising. But they were able to bring in Ryan Sheki, they were able to bring in Ryan Nuri and Tijani Rangers, and also Bellettini. Yeah, they brought in those players, but in my opinion, I don't think they've done enough. Right? They also brought in Donnarumma, yes, and Trafford. Yeah, so but I don't think they've done enough. I still think they need more in defense. They spent roughly 206 million and they still needed players in defense. Right? I know Rodri is coming back to balance up the team again, but that defensive part, there are still holes in there for me. And that's why I'm rating their window like a 7/10. And this is kind of unusual for Man City because they usually get the job done. They usually have everything done before the season even starts. But I guess times are changing. And yeah, it's a 7/10 window for me from Manchester City. And that's why they are number four. At number three, I have Rent Boys, Chelsea FC. Always having a chaotic window, signing from here, signing everybody. I've lost count of the players they've signed. I have lost count. But I know they brought in two strikers, Joao Pedro and Dilap, to replace Jackson. I know they brought in a midfielder, Darius Esugo. I know they also brought in Esteval. They brought in Ganacho. They brought in Paez. They brought in Facundo Buonanotte. But I still feel like they left themselves short because Leverkusen got injured. And Tosin and Badeshile, in my opinion, are not good enough. And you can't depend on Rich James. He's injury prone. And Fofana is also injury prone. So I think they should have brought in another defender. But yeah, they didn't do that. And that's why I'm rating their window 7/10. And I feel like for a team that wants to challenge for the league, I don't think they have enough. I don't think the defenders they have are good enough to challenge for the league. So that's why I put them at number three. At number two, I have Arsenal FC. What Arsenal needed to do this season was bring in a striker, bring in a creator, bring in a replacement for Partey, bring in cover for Bukayo Saka, and extra bodies. And they did that. They did all of that. They brought in Eberechi Eze, they brought in Victor Gyökeres, they brought in Madueke, they brought in Zubimendi, they brought in Nogard, they brought in Piero Incape, they brought in Mosquera. That's about 8 players that they brought in, and those players have covered all the holes that needed to be plugged in the team. They spent their money really well. It was an unprecedented transfer window for Arsenal, and the fans are happy. And I think they are balanced. They have squad depth, and I think they are ready to go and win this league. Now it's left to see, can Ateta do it? Yes or no? We don't know, but I think they are ready. They have a squad that is ready to compete on all fronts. And that's why I'm putting them at number two. And I feel like, yeah, they've had the second best window from the top 6 clubs. I'm rating Arsenal's window 9 over 10. And the reason I'm rating it 9 over 10 is because I don't think they sold enough players. So the money didn't come in. And that can be a problem. And that's why I'm putting it at 9 over 10. At number one, we have Liverpool. We all know what Liverpool did. Liverpool did a madness in this summer transfer window. They spent 464 million, right? Brought in Ugo Ekitike, brought in Kerkez, brought in Frimpong, brought in Giovanni Leone, the defender, and then they brought in Alexander Isak. That just sealed it for me. Thank God for deadline day. Deadline day collapse. They would have brought in Gay and it would have been over, right? But still, I still think it's a 10 over 10 window for Liverpool. They did really well. They spent their money really well. They brought in one of the best number 10s in Europe. They brought in one of the most sought after strikers in Europe in Alexander Isak. They brought in Ekitike, who has been tearing up the league. They've just done everything so well, and their fans should be elated, and they should be beating their chest saying they are going to win this league. Like, nothing should stop them from saying they are going to win the league. The reason I rate Liverpool's window 10 over 10, the main reason is because aside from bringing in all those players and spending 464 million, they were able to sell players. They sold Luis Diaz to Bayern. They sold Darwin Nunes to Al Hilal. They sold Jaron Kwanzaa. They sold Keller, their second goalkeeper, and I think they also sold Elliott, and I think that's a loan. But yeah, they brought in good money to balance out their books, and that's really good business. So yeah, that's why I think they are the 10 over 10 window. That's why I think they are the number one team with the best summer transfer window business done this season. What do you guys think? Those are my top 6. We had Manchester United at number 6. We had Tottenham at number 5. We had Man City at number 4. I had Chelsea at number 3. I had Arsenal at number 2. And I have Liverpool at number 1. What do you guys think? Who has had the best window? Let me know in the comment section. I would like to know your opinion. Thanks for watching. Kindly like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys in the next video. Peace.